I've been married for a little over 6 years, and for most of that time, I genuinely believed we were one of those couples who had figured it out. Not perfect, not movie-level passionate, but stable, peaceful. The kind of marriage where the biggest argument you have is over whether the plates go in the dishwasher facing inward or outward. But yeah, turns out the dishwasher wasn't the problem. Not even close. My wife, Emily, and I had what I liked calling a quiet marriage. We weren't one of those dramatic couples you see on Facebook airing grievances like they're filing taxes. We were boring, in the good way. I worked a lot because my job in logistics basically means companies panic and email me like the world is ending, and I respond, "Got it," while drinking cold coffee. But I always tried with her. Morning coffees, Friday date nights, checking in on her mom, remembering she can't have dairy unless we want to evacuate the house. Normal stuff. Then around early spring she changed, not overnight, gradually. First it was the sighing, not normal sighs, but the kind that suggested life had wronged her personally. Then the staring out the window, like she was waiting for a ship that went missing in 1824. And then came the coldness, not hostile, not angry, just absent. One night I asked, "Everything okay?" She kept staring at the TV. "I'm fine, just tired." "Sure, and I'm Batman." But I let it go, because not every weird mood needs a full investigation. Except it kept going. Another night, I was telling her about a coworker who stapled his tie to a stack of paperwork, which, by the way, was objectively funny, and she suddenly cut me off with, "Do you ever feel like you're here, but you're not really here?" I blinked at her. I feel like I'm physically here unless I'm having an out-of-body experience I didn't schedule. She gave me the kind of eye roll usually reserved for teenagers who think they invented sarcasm. "See, this is what I mean. You joke instead of listening." "I am listening. You just started with a line that sounds like it belongs in a sad indie movie." She didn't laugh. Not even a twitch. Just let out another one of her trademark dramatic sighs, the kind loud enough to register on a seismograph. After that, it felt like everything I did was wrong. And not just wrong, offensively wrong. If I didn't ask about her day, she said I didn't care. If I did ask, she said I didn't ask in a real way. If I offered to help with something, she said I was overcompensating. If I didn't offer, I was emotionally lazy. At that point, it felt like I was trapped in a game show called What Does My Wife Want Today? Spoiler, nobody wins that game. One night she dropped the line every husband fears. "Why are you so defensive?" I literally said, "Okay," I told her. "Exactly, that's defensive." I looked around the room like maybe someone would jump out and tell me I was being pranked. No luck. The pressure just kept building. Conversations weren't really conversations anymore. They were ambushes disguised as quality time. It was like I was being given performance reviews in a job where nobody explained the expectations. Then came the morning that changed everything. We were sitting at the table. She was eating yogurt like she hated it, but it was too late to pick something else. I was eating toast because bread doesn't judge. And she suddenly said, "I think we should start therapy." I blinked. Again, a lot of blinking was happening these days. "Couples therapy?" I asked. "Yes," she said, with the tone of someone announcing that donations will now be accepted. "Because I've been bottling things up for years." "Okay," I said carefully. "If you think it'll help." "It's your marriage too," she snapped. That's literally why I said, "Okay." She ignored that and began searching for therapists like she was booking concert tickets. "I think we should start therapy." I blinked. Again, a lot of blinking was happening these days. "Couples therapy?" I asked. "Yes," she said, with the tone of someone announcing that donations will now be accepted. "Because I've been bottling things up for years." "Okay," I said carefully. "If you think it'll help." "It's your marriage too," she snapped. That's literally why I said, "Okay." She ignored that and began searching for therapists like she was booking concert tickets. "I drove us here," I said. "Pretty sure that means I'm at least bodily present." Emily shot me a death glare. Dr. Warner scribbled something down. Hopefully, husband uses humor to avoid strangling wife. She continued her monologue. "He doesn't check in with me. He doesn't ask how I feel. I feel alone." I wanted to argue, but I didn't want to be the guy who turns therapy into Mortal Kombat. So I said, I'm willing to work on anything. She stared at me like I had confessed to burning down her childhood home. And so began what I now call my personal improvement arc. I messaged her during the day, not once, but multiple times. How's your morning? Everything okay? Thinking of you? Her replies, good. Busy. I planned a date. She said she wasn't in the right headspace. I cooked her favorite dinner. She frowned and said the seasoning felt aggressive. At one point, I genuinely wondered if she'd developed a brand new allergy called husband intolerance. She started going on what she called mental health walks, which apparently required full makeup, a new outfit, and perfume. Her phone was always face down, silent, like it had joined witness protection. She came home later and later, always emotionally drained. Around the 12th, you don't get me emotionally, something clicked. No matter what I did, I was losing a rigged game. And for the first time, I started to think, maybe it wasn't me at all. And the next few weeks felt like someone had quietly replaced my wife with a colder, more judgmental version of herself. The kind who acted like everything I said was a personal attack, even when I was just asking if she wanted tea. One Friday evening, right before we were supposed to go out with her friends, she looked at me the same way people look at food that's been in the fridge too long. You know, she said, I just wish you understood me. Emotionally. I'm trying, I replied, like painfully trying. She gave me a tight smile. Trying isn't the same as understanding. Well, I said, understanding would be easier if you didn't treat your feelings like state secrets. Her eyes narrowed. There, that tone, you're being dismissive. My tone? I said 8 words. Exactly. At that point, I started wondering if she had taken a secret night class titled, How to Make Your Husband Doubt Reality 101. Before I could defend myself, she added, Please don't make tonight awkward. My friends already think you're distant. Oh, good, I said. Glad we're running a PR campaign now. She ignored me and grabbed her purse. Dinner was with 2 of her co-workers and 1 of her childhood friends, all women who treated me like I had personally offended the concept of emotional intelligence. Emily set the tone early. So, she announced in the middle of appetizers, we're working on communication in therapy. Everyone immediately awed at her like she was a wounded bird. One of them, I think her name was Megan, the type who calls every ex emotionally unavailable, leaned toward her. You're so strong for doing the work, she said. Emily nodded with the seriousness of a monk. It's just hard. He tries, but he doesn't really, you know. She waved her hand vaguely in my direction. Connect. The table collectively looked at me like I was a malfunctioning robot that needed an empathy patch installed. I took a sip of my drink. I do connect, I said, sometimes too much. I connected with Megan's boyfriend that one time he was flirting with the bartender. Megan almost dropped her fork. That never happened. Sure, I said. Let's go with that. Emily glared at me so hard I'm pretty sure my soul ducked for cover. The table judged me in silence for the next 10 minutes. When we came home, she sighed dramatically, again, and said, Do you see why communication is so hard for us? I opened my mouth, decided I valued my life, and closed it again. She didn't like that either. You're shutting down, she accused. I'm literally just standing here, I said, emotionally shutting down. Emily, I haven't even taken my shoes off. The next therapy session wasn't any better. Emily cried, a lot. Some of it real, some of it suspiciously well-timed. I just feel, she said between sniffles, like I'm married alone. Dr. Warner nodded slowly and then turned to me. And how do you respond to that? I respond, I said, by being confused because I'm literally sitting right here. Emily shot me a look that translated to stop ruining my scene. I sighed. Okay, look, I'm doing everything I can. I text, I call, I ask. I plan things, I listen, I do chores. I try not to breathe too loudly because apparently that's a new issue. That's not fair, Emily snapped. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't you say yesterday that my breathing was too sharp? Dr. Warner blinked. Too sharp? Emily turned red. I was frustrated. I shrugged. So was I. But you don't hear me blaming your breathing. Her jaw clenched so hard I thought she'd crack a tooth. After the session, she stormed out of the office like she was competing in the Olympic speed walking event. I caught up to her at the car. "What now?" I asked. "You embarrassed me," she said, arms crossed. "Me? Emily, you made it sound like I'm running an emotional abandonment business." "That's not what I said." "That's exactly what you said. You twisted my words." I repeated them. She got into the car and slammed the door. I took a deep breath before getting in on my side. She turned away from me and stared out her window the entire drive home, like the buildings passing by were auditioning to replace me. The coldness kept growing. The mental health walks got longer. Her clothes got nicer. Her perfume got stronger. Her phone, always face down, became her permanent emotional support animal. One night I joked, "Your phone sees more of you than I do." She didn't laugh. "That's because it listens." "Yeah," I said, "because it doesn't talk back." She stood up and walked out of the room without a word. At that point, I wasn't even angry, just tired. Tired of guessing, tired of apologizing, tired of her treating me like I was emotionally blindfolded while she threw darts at me. One evening, I finally asked, "Emily, what do you want from me? Just tell me. A sentence, a word, a hand gesture, anything." She looked at me with tired eyes. "I want you to understand me." "I'm trying," I said. "I'm doing everything except hiring a private investigator to track your emotions." "That's exactly the problem," she said. "You always make jokes, you never go deep." "If I go any deeper," I said, "I'll accidentally hit bedrock." She stormed off again. At this point, every interaction felt like an exam I didn't study for because the questions weren't even in English. And the weirdest part? She wasn't angry. She was guilty angry, defensive angry, the kind of angry that makes you think there's a whole chapter you haven't been shown. And one night, it finally hit me. There was something she wasn't showing me. I just didn't know what yet. The tension in our house didn't just grow. It settled in, unpacked its bags, and started paying rent. Every day felt like walking through emotional fog, and Emily kept acting like she was starring in a tragic Netflix drama where her husband existed only to make her sigh meaningfully. One Thursday evening, she came home 2 hours later than usual. This time, she didn't even bother pretending she was out for a walk. She breezed through the door with the same stunned expression people have after a wine tasting they accidentally got drunk at. "Hey," I said from the kitchen sink. "Busy walk?" She didn't meet my eyes. I needed time to think. "Must have been a lot of thinking," I said. "You traveled through multiple time zones." She shot me a look like my existence was ruining her personal aesthetic. "You're being sarcastic." "I'm being curious." "You're interrogating me." I asked one question. "Exactly. Right, of course. Silly me." She kicked off her shoes and went straight to the shower. No kiss, no hug, not even a, "Can you believe how wild my day was?" Nothing. Just guilt vibes and steam. While she was in the shower, her phone lit up on the counter. Not with a message. She had those silenced, but with the lock screen turning on. I didn't touch it, didn't snoop, didn't hover. But I noticed something. Different wallpaper. She'd changed it recently. It used to be a photo of us at the beach. Now it was a generic mountain landscape with a motivational quote. Something like, "Find what sets your soul on fire." Well, something was definitely being set on fire. When she finally came out wrapped in a towel, I simply asked, "Everything okay?" She said, "Can you not do this right now?" "Do what?" The questions. She didn't answer. She just disappeared into the bedroom like a moody ghost. I stood in the hallway for a few seconds and realized something important. I was no longer trying to fix anything. I was just watching my marriage unravel in slow motion. But then came the night that changed everything. It was a Tuesday. Pretty normal. I was doing the dishes, again, because Emily had declared that she didn't have the emotional bandwidth for kitchen responsibilities that week, or the previous week, or the one before that. At around 9:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. I looked at the screen expecting a spam text about extending my car warranty. Instead, it was Lily, her sister. We weren't texting buddies. We were friendly, but not the type to swap memes or complain about life. So seeing her name pop up at 9:30 was enough to make me pause. Her message said, "Can we talk? It's important." My first reaction was, great. Emily probably told her I emotionally wounded her by folding a blanket incorrectly. I typed back, sure. About what? Her reply came immediately, not over text. Can you meet? Okay. That was new. Lily avoids drama like it's gluten. If she wanted to meet, something was actually happening. I told her I'd meet her at the coffee shop 2 blocks away. When I walked in, she was already there, sitting in a corner booth, fidgeting with a paper napkin like she was trying to turn it into confetti. She stood up when she saw me. Thank you for coming, she said quickly. Her voice was shaky. Lily never sounds shaky. This was already bad. We sat down. She kept looking around the cafe like she was afraid Emily would jump out from behind the latte machine. I finally said, okay, you're scaring me. What's going on? She took a deep breath, the kind people take before confessing to a crime. Please don't hate me, she said. I should have told you sooner. My stomach dropped a little, but my face didn't move. Told me what? She looked at me for a long second, her eyes full of guilt. Emily is seeing someone? I didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't react. Not because I wasn't shocked, but because my brain was doing that slow, irritated, of course she is reboot. Lily continued, her words spilling out fast. It's someone from her job. They've been seeing each other for months, like 6 months, maybe more. A guy from her department. He's older, thinks he's like some kind of emotional sage because he listens to jazz and reads psychology books. That sounds exhausting, I said. Exactly, Lily said loudly, then lowered her voice. He's the kind of guy who unironically says things like, your inner child deserves space. I cannot believe she fell for that. Oh, I can, I said. She called my breathing emotionally sharp last week. Lily buried her face in her hands. God, I'm so sorry. For what? I asked calmly. For not telling you sooner. I knew something was going on months ago. I didn't have proof, but I could see the shift in her. The excuses. The way she talked about you like you were the problem. Ah, yes, I said. Her favorite hobby. She looked up. Her eyes were red. She wasn't just complaining, she said quietly. She was rewriting the whole story. Telling our mom that you were cold, that you never tried, that she was emotionally abandoned. I snorted. I was emotionally present enough to drive her to therapy every week. Lily gave a sad smile. I know. I've seen how hard you're trying. That's why I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I nodded slowly. So 6 months. At least, she said. They go out after work. Sometimes during lunch, she texts him a lot. She changed her passcode recently. Yeah, I noticed, I said. Her phone has more secrets than the CIA. Lily sighed. I didn't know how to tell you. But you deserve to know before she twists everything. She wants to leave you soon, but she wants people to think it's because you were emotionally distant. That would explain all the rehearsed lines, I said. She's been performing like she's prepping for an Oscar. Lily looked at me. Are you okay? Honestly, I leaned back. This is the first time in months something actually makes sense. She exhaled, a long, shaky exhale. You're taking this better than I expected. I ran out of panic, I said. Now I'm just connecting the dots. There was a long pause. Then Lily reached across the table and squeezed my arm. You're a good guy, she said. Don't let her convince you otherwise. She's lost. She thinks this guy is some kind of emotional upgrade. Well, I said, she certainly downgraded her marriage. Lily let out a laugh she'd been holding in for months. We walked out of the cafe together. At the door, she hugged me. Not a polite hug, a real one. Tight, warm, apologetic. Please don't let her destroy your confidence, she whispered. I won't, I said. Trust me. What are you going to do? She asked. I smiled. A calm, cold, satisfied smile. Next therapy session, I said, is going to be educational. The next therapy session was scheduled for Friday at 5 p.m. It felt poetic, ending the work week with emotional demolition. Emily spent the entire afternoon getting ready. Not therapy ready. Date ready, full makeup, new blouse, perfume that cost more than my car insurance. She even curled her hair. For therapy. I watched her walk around the apartment, adjusting her earrings like she was preparing for a photo shoot, not a conversation about our communication issues. You look nice, I said casually. She glanced at me in the mirror. It helps me feel confident. I'm sure he'll appreciate that. She frowned. What? Nothing. She paused but didn't press further. She grabbed her purse, her phone, the emotional distance she'd been cultivating for months, and we headed out. The drive to Dr. Warner's office was silent. Not the peaceful kind. The I'm hiding something and praying you don't notice kind. She stared out the window with a soft smile, the same one she used to make when she got sweet texts from me years ago. Now I knew exactly who was sending that smile. When we arrived, Emily immediately switched into sad wife mode. You could almost hear the internal click. Shoulders slumped, lips trembling, big eyes full of unspoken suffering. Oscar-worthy. Dr. Warner greeted us with his usual calm, vaguely bored expression. Come in, he said. Sit wherever feels comfortable. Emily sat down first, crossing her legs dramatically. I sat beside her, relaxed, back straight, hands on my knees like I was about to order lunch. So, Dr. Warner began, how have things been since last session? Emily inhaled shakily. Showtime. I've been struggling, she said softly. A lot. I leaned slightly toward her. Really? A lot? She shot me a warning glance, sharp, quick, full of don't ruin my performance. Yes, she continued. I feel like he's not really present with me. It's like I'm alone in the marriage. That line again. Dr. Warner nodded sympathetically. And what makes you feel that way? Emily let out a tiny, perfectly timed sniffle. He doesn't understand me emotionally. He doesn't ask the right questions. I feel invisible. I waited. Let her speak. Let her weave the net she thought she'd catch me in. She wasn't done. Sometimes, she whispered, it feels like he's already halfway out the door. Well, I finally said, I'm definitely halfway somewhere. Both of them looked at me. Emily blinked fast. Can you not make jokes? That wasn't a joke, I said calmly. She shifted uncomfortably. See, this is what I mean. He turns everything into a deflection. Actually, I said, I'm being extremely direct today. Dr. Warner raised an eyebrow. Direct how? I looked at him, then at Emily, then back at him. I know about him. The sentence dropped into the room like a brick through glass. Emily froze, literally froze. Her entire body went stiff, like she had suddenly become a museum exhibit titled Woman in Panic. What do you mean? She stuttered. You know what I mean. She looked from me to Dr. Warner, back to me. Her throat bobbed. Her lipstick suddenly looked too bright, too obvious, like she'd painted on confidence that was now melting off. Who told you? She demanded, voice cracking. I said. There it is. The question of someone who's not shocked by the accusation, only shocked that she got caught. You misunderstood. Emily, I said calmly. Don't. Really? It's embarrassing at this point. Her eyes filled with tears. Not the soft, manipulative ones she practiced. Real panic tears. You don't understand, she whispered. I understand perfectly, I replied. And I'm done pretending I don't. Dr. Warner finally leaned forward. Emily, is there something you want to share? She whipped her head toward him. No, there's nothing. He's twisting things. He always does this. I laughed, not meanly, just lightly, like she had made a mildly incorrect math statement. Really? I said. So you didn't spend the last 6 months with your spiritual coworker? You didn't change your passcode? You didn't hide your perfume? You didn't come home smelling like his cologne? You didn't tell your sister you were emotionally checked out while setting me up as the scapegoat? Her mouth opened and closed like a fish learning English. You talked to Lily? She whispered. Yes, I said. Turns out she has a conscience. Wild, right? She slapped her hand over her mouth and looked away like she'd just been caught cheating on national television. You don't get it, she said in a shaky voice. I was confused. I was hurting. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to look like the bad guy. I finished. Yeah, I noticed. She turned sharply to Dr. Warner. This isn't fair. He's attacking me. Dr. Warner lifted his hand slightly. Emily, I'm not hearing an attack. I'm hearing facts he's asking you to respond to. Her eyes widened like he'd just betrayed her. You're taking his side? I'm not taking sides, he said. But I think honesty is necessary right now. Emily stared at both of us, tears streaming, mascara starting to smudge. For the first time in months, she wasn't composed. She wasn't performing. She was exposed. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said weakly. Of course you did, I replied. People don't accidentally date for half a year. I wanted to tell you, she said. When? I asked. Before or after you finished rewriting history to make me the villain? That's not fair, she cried. You pushed me into his arms. There it is, I said. The classic plot twist. The husband caused the affair. Her sobbing got louder, messier, less elegant. I tried so hard, she said. You don't understand how lonely I felt. You weren't lonely, I said. You were entertained. She inhaled sharply, offended in a way only guilty people get offended. Dr. Warner looked at her gently. Emily, your husband has made very clear statements. I think it's important for us to acknowledge what's true. She covered her face with both hands. I messed up, she whispered. Okay, I messed up. I stood up, slowly, calmly, without anger. Yeah, I said. You did. She looked up at me with red, drowning eyes. Where are you going? I picked up my jacket. Away, I said, finally. You can't just walk out, she exclaimed. I stayed through all the lies, I said. Walking out is the most honest thing I've done in months. She reached out a trembling hand. Please don't leave like this. I paused at the door and looked back at her. Disheveled, exposed, stripped of her script. I spent months thinking I was the problem, I said. Turns out I was just the distraction. And with that, I walked out of the room. Leaving that therapy room felt less like walking out of an office and more like stepping off a sinking ship. No panic, no chaos. Just relief that I wasn't drowning anymore. I didn't go home with Emily. I didn't even check my phone. I got in my car, drove 20 minutes, and checked into a small apartment-style hotel. The kind with a kitchenette and furniture from 2010, but at least it didn't sigh dramatically every time I walked into the room. That first night alone, I sat on the bed and waited for the guilt to hit me. It never did. What hit me instead was peace, actual undramatic peace. I slept like a rock. No sighs, no accusations. No, you didn't ask me about my feelings in the right tone. Just silence and a decent mattress. The next morning I woke up to 17 texts from Emily. The first 5 were variations of, "We need to talk. Please don't ignore me. This isn't fair." The next 6 were emotional. "I can't believe you left. I was vulnerable. I didn't want to hurt you. We can fix this." The last 6 were unhinged. "Answer me. This isn't all my fault. You're being cold. Don't punish me. You don't get to leave me like this." And finally, "Fine." Classic. I put the phone down and went to make coffee. Instant coffee never tasted so good. Over the next few days, I focused on just existing, eating, walking, sleeping, talking to people who weren't auditioning for a daytime soap opera. I called my friend Mark, who said, "Dude, I knew something was off." Emily talked about her feelings like she was reading Yelp reviews. I laughed more in those 10 minutes than I had in months. Then I reconnected with some hobbies I'd abandoned. Woodworking, running, playing guitar. Things Emily had once called distractions, because they didn't revolve around her mood swings. 3 days later, Emily asked if we could meet to talk. I agreed because I wasn't running from anything. I just wasn't willing to drown again. We met at a neutral place, a quiet park bench. Emily arrived wearing the sad but dignified outfit. Neutral sweater, soft makeup, hair carefully undone to look naturally messy. She sat down next to me, leaving space between us. Her voice was soft, rehearsed. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what part?" I asked. She blinked as if she thought I'd just accept the general apology package without specifics. "For everything," she said. "I shouldn't have lied. I shouldn't have blamed you. I shouldn't have done what I did." "That's a lot of shouldn'ts," I said. "Good start. Now try a few I dids." She swallowed. I messed up." "That's still vague." She glared a little. "Do you want me to beg?" "I want you to be honest," I said. For once, she shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't plan the affair, okay? It just happened." I raised an eyebrow. Did he trip and fall into your schedule for 6 months? Can you stop being sarcastic? No, I said. This is the healthiest coping mechanism I have left. She sighed, her signature move. I was lonely, she said, and you were always working. Emily, I said, I worked the same amount when you were happy. That's not true. It is, I said calmly. I checked my hours. She stared at me like she couldn't believe I would use facts in this conversation. I just want us to fix this, she said. We've been together so long. We have, I agreed. And during that time, I never lied to you, never blamed you for my choices, never tried to rewrite history to make myself the victim. I wasn't trying to be a victim. No, I said. You were trying to be innocent? Different thing. Same result. She looked away, her eyes glassy. Do you really think I'm a bad person? I don't think you're evil, I said honestly. I think you're selfish. And I think you hate being wrong more than you hate hurting people. Her lips trembled. You're being cruel. No, I said. I'm being accurate. No, I said. You were trying to be innocent? Different thing. Same result. She looked away, her eyes glassy. Do you really think I'm a bad person? I don't think you're evil, I said honestly. I think you're selfish. And I think you hate being wrong more than you hate hurting people. Her lips trembled. You're being cruel. No, I said. I'm being accurate. She groaned quietly. You're impossible. And you're predictable. She looked up sharply. So that's it? You're done? I was done, I said, the moment you made me question my sanity over your affair. She pressed her lips together. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean to get caught, I corrected. Silence dropped between us. Eventually she whispered, I miss you. I looked at her. Really looked. At the tired eyes. At the guilt. At the fear of losing control of the narrative. You miss the version of me who blamed himself, I said. She didn't argue. I stood up. Take care of yourself, Emily. She grabbed my wrist. Wait, just tell me one thing. Is there any chance? Any at all? I gently pulled my hand away. You didn't lose me, I said. You just showed me who you really are. I walked away while she sat on the bench staring at the ground, finally out of scripts. For the first time in months, I felt lighter. Over the next few weeks, I adjusted to my new life. A small apartment, a cleaner mind, a sense of freedom that didn't feel like running, more like choosing myself. Emily continued sending messages. Some were sad, some angry, some nostalgic. I answered none. Because I didn't leave the marriage, I just stopped carrying it alone. About a month after everything fell apart, life finally started to feel normal. Not the old normal, where I tiptoed around sighs and emotional landmines, but a better one, steady, quiet, uncomplicated. I woke up without heaviness, went to work without knots in my stomach, came home without wondering what version of my wife I'd find waiting for me. The nights were the strangest part. Silence felt foreign at first, like I was supposed to be arguing with someone about nothing, or apologizing for breathing incorrectly. But soon silence became a friend. It meant peace, not punishment. Emily kept texting. Long paragraphs full of "I realized," and "I didn't appreciate," and "We can still fix this." Then shorter ones. "Why won't you answer? We built a life together. This can't be the end," I replied once. "Please respect my space." After that, I stopped responding altogether. She didn't reach out again after the third week. Lily checked in a few times, mostly to make sure I wasn't collapsing emotionally or adopting 12 cats out of spite. I assured her I was fine. Better than fine, actually. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.